Edwin Hubble. Give up 3 minutes of smartphone use in the morning and you'll reboot your brain. Long before smartphones and social media feeds consumed our attention at every turn, Edwin Hubble stood at the threshold of a discovery that would change humanity's grasp of the cosmos. His relentless quest to understand the universe did not only revolutionize astronomy, but also offered a perspective on how we, as individuals, might expand our own mental horizons. Today, few people realize how much Hubble's life story can teach us about focus, discipline, and the importance of taking small but powerful steps that reconnect us with our inner curiosity. By the end of this narrative, a surprising twist awaits, one that will tie Hubble's expansive vision to the simple idea of reclaiming just 3 minutes of our morning routine from the clutches of endless notifications. Imagine an era in the early 20th century when the Milky Way was still widely believed to encompass the entirety of the universe. Telescopes were limited in their capacity. Astronomers pored over photographic plates by the dim glow of desk lamps, scanning for the faintest glimmer of stars. At the Mount Wilson Observatory in California, Edwin Hubble worked painstakingly night after night, calibrating instruments and meticulously noting every faint speck of light on those glass plates. He was driven by a burning question. Could there be more out there than we ever dared to imagine? He had a keen mind and an almost spiritual reverence for the night sky. For Hubble, it was not enough to simply look at stars. He wanted to decode the messages they carried. He peered deeper into objects then known as spiral nebulae, swirling patches in the sky whose nature was hotly debated. Some contended these nebulous patches were simply gas clouds within our own Milky Way. Others, including Hubble, suspected they might be faraway systems of stars, entire galaxies like our own. Armed with the 100-inch Hooker telescope, the most powerful instrument of its day, Hubble confirmed what some astronomers had long suspected. The Andromeda Nebula was in fact a galaxy, an island universe full of its own stars, far beyond the bounds of the Milky Way. This revelation shattered the boundaries of our cosmic map. The known universe suddenly expanded 100-fold, 1,000-fold, or even more. Humanity's sense of place in the cosmos was forever changed. Hubble's findings did not stop there. He went on to develop a method of classifying galaxies by their shapes and, crucially, discovered that the light from these galaxies was redshifted in proportion to their distance from us. This simple but groundbreaking relationship, later formulated as Hubble's law, showed that the universe was not static. It was expanding. With that, the foundation for modern cosmology was set, laying the groundwork for the Big Bang Theory. It is hard to overstate how jolting this was for humanity's worldview. We went from believing our galaxy was the grand total of existence to realizing we inhabit a vast ocean of countless galaxies, all receding from one another in an ever-expanding cosmic dance. That sense of awe, that shocking expansion of understanding, can inspire us in ways beyond astronomy. It invites us to contemplate how a single discovery or small change in perspective can reframe our entire reality. What does this have to do with giving up 3 minutes of smartphone use in the morning? Picture Hubble, hunched over a telescope, alone under a silent sky. There were no bright smartphone screens, no urgent pings or notifications to pull him away. His attention was undivided, poured entirely into interpreting faint signals of light that had traveled for millions of years across space. That level of focus, curiosity, and discipline is something we can learn from. In our modern world, the first thing many of us do upon waking is reach for our phones. Before our feet even touch the ground, we are bombarded with headlines, social media updates, or chat messages. Our minds flood with countless small demands, overshadowing the quiet potential of morning hours. Edwin Hubble's approach to his work reminds us that there is a treasure in unbroken focus, in giving our minds the space to wander freely in curiosity. You might be asking, why 3 minutes? It is an intentionally small number. Human behavior tends to resist drastic changes. If we say, tomorrow, I will not check my phone for the first 2 hours of the day, we might fail because it feels too radical. But 3 minutes is tiny. It is a simple, symbolic gesture that creates a pocket of reflection or gentle mindfulness at the start of the day. In that pocket of time, we can access the same kind of wonder that fueled Hubble's quest to unlock the galaxy's secrets. Those 3 minutes, short as they may be, can become a seed for bigger transformations. Hubble's life was dedicated to uncovering truths hidden behind the veil of the night sky. He spent years, sometimes decades, refining his methods, waiting for the right photographic plates to develop, analyzing data, and confirming each result meticulously before announcing it to the scientific community. This patient approach flew in the face of any need for constant stimulation or instant gratification. The universe was not going anywhere, so Hubble took his time, methodically, steadily, almost meditatively. The results speak for themselves. Not only did he rewrite textbooks on astronomy, but he also gave humanity a humbling sense of our place in the cosmos. That sense of humility is precisely what might be missing from our technology-saturated mornings. When we seize our phones right after opening our eyes, we remain trapped in a small bubble of immediate concerns. Hubble's story beckons us to entertain the vast possibilities we overlook when our attention is consumed by screens. It is worth looking at the rest of Hubble's routine. Although the specifics are not as famous as those of some historical figures, we do know he had a disciplined and methodical nature. Born in 1889 in Missouri, he excelled academically but also had a love for sports, especially boxing. After studying at the University of Chicago, he attended Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, focusing on Roman and English law rather than astronomy, a detour that many found unexpected. Yet, astronomy remained his real passion, and he eventually returned to it, bringing with him a broad intellectual foundation. At Mount Wilson, he embraced the tedious but essential chores of an astronomer of his day, manually capturing images on glass plates, developing them in darkrooms, and carefully comparing them to older plates. The process was slow and required immense patience. Sometimes, entire nights of observation could be ruined by weather or mechanical errors. But Hubble learned the art of steady perseverance. That quality allowed him to push through obstacles that would have deterred someone with less resolve. In our modern context, we might consider how often we lose patience when waiting for a web page to load or an app to update. The immediate reaction is frustration or a quick attempt to distract ourselves with something else. Hubble's approach was to let the natural pace of the universe guide him, to work with it rather than against it, and to trust that significant results come from sustained focus. One might argue that he was a product of a simpler time, free from the bombardment of digital media. That is true. However, the principle he exemplifies is timeless. A small change in daily behavior can open a window to deeper insight. If we gave ourselves even 3 minutes of quiet reflection in the morning, what might come of it? Could those minutes gradually expand into a daily habit of journaling, or stepping outside to look at the sky, or simply acknowledging our surroundings before the daily rush begins? Hubble was a visionary not just because he discovered galaxies, but because he had the courage to question entrenched assumptions. Likewise, we often assume that checking our phones first thing in the morning is just how life is. That assumption goes unchallenged. But if we imagine the alternative, perhaps sipping water, stretching, or opening a window to feel fresh air in those initial moments, we might find ourselves with a surprising sense of calm and mental clarity. When Hubble presented his evidence for galaxies beyond our own, he did not merely add a fact to astronomy. He expanded the cosmic stage upon which all of human history has unfolded. In the same sense, giving up 3 minutes of smartphone use is not about hating technology or rejecting modern conveniences. It is a symbolic act that expands our mental and emotional bandwidth before it gets flooded by digital demands. It is about preserving a sliver of the day for awe and curiosity. His work also led to the concept that the universe is not static. It continuously stretches out, carrying galaxies apart. For many, this was an unsettling idea. If the cosmos itself is in motion, then nothing remains fixed. That revelation can be paralleled in our own lives. We're not static, either. Each morning, we can choose to be pulled along by habitual behaviors, or we can carve out a small piece of time to reflect on where we are headed. Hubble's vantage point reminds us that everything is in flux and that we have a say in how we navigate our personal expansion. Of course, Hubble was not perfect. He had his share of personal quirks and faced professional rivalries. However, his dedication to unveiling cosmic truths remains an inspiration for scientists and dreamers alike. Even after his most famous discoveries, he continued to refine his data, pushing the limits of telescopic technology further. He recognized that science, like life, is a never-ending process of learning and revising. Now, take a moment to reflect. Do you ever start your day feeling rushed or overwhelmed by notifications and messages? Or do you have a morning ritual that sets a calm, purposeful tone? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That question is worth pausing over because it might be the turning point in our story. Just as Hubble needed solitude and focus to see beyond the Milky Way, we sometimes need deliberate quiet to see beyond the clutter of immediate demands. If you imagine adopting the 3 minutes off approach for a week, you might be surprised at how it affects the rest of your morning. Let us delve deeper into how exactly we might use those 3 minutes, inspired by Hubble's cosmic perspective. The first minute could be simply to breathe in and out, acknowledging that you have woken up to another day of possibilities. By focusing on the sensation of breathing, you echo the calm intention Hubble might have had before he spent hours gazing at faint starlight. The second minute might be devoted to a thought, something you want to explore or learn that day. Hubble was never complacent with what was already known. He always asked, "What if there is more?" In your case, you might wonder, "What can I discover today that I do not yet know?" That small mental shift primes your mind for curiosity instead of anxiety. In the third minute, consider your place in the grand scheme of things. Remember that we live in an expanding universe. Our personal problems, while valid, are part of a larger story. This cosmic perspective can, paradoxically, make our challenges feel both smaller and more connected to a grand narrative. We can also think of the countless cosmic rays, photons, and forces swirling around us every second, reminders of how little of reality we typically observe in our daily routines. Why do we choose to link Hubble's name with this idea of giving up 3 minutes of smartphone use? It is because Hubble's greatest contribution was about opening up the cosmos to our understanding. We, too, can open up a bit of mental space in our everyday lives, and that small opening can create an entire expansion of perspective. Hubble died in 1953, never receiving the Nobel Prize. It was not awarded for astronomy at the time, but his legacy endures in every major astronomical discovery since. The Hubble Space Telescope, launched in 1990 and named in his honor, has captured images of galaxies billions of light-years away, glimpsing the early universe. Whenever you see those stunning cosmic vistas, you're looking at an extension of Hubble's work, his insistence that there's always more out there than meets the eye. That same principle can be applied inwardly. There's always more potential within our minds than we realize, especially if we keep them constantly occupied with external stimulation. By cutting out a small slice of phone time, we are in essence acknowledging that there might be something more within ourselves worth paying attention to. Much like how Hubble found an entire realm of existence beyond the Milky Way, we can find a quieter, more introspective realm within us if we just set aside the smartphone glow. Over time, 3 minutes could become 5 or even 10 as we grow comfortable with a brief daily retreat into silence or into the natural curiosity that begins our morning. But 3 minutes is enough to start. One might wonder if such a practice is too small to matter in a complicated world filled with responsibilities, social obligations, and constant news cycles. Yet the universe is built upon principles that start on tiny scales, the subatomic, even. Big Bang cosmology starts from an infinitesimal point of explosive potential. Hubble used single pinpricks of light on photographic plates to overturn centuries of astronomical assumptions. In the same spirit, a small, consistent act can shift how we experience our day and eventually reshape our entire outlook on life. Hubble once wrote that equipped with his telescope, he could probe the realm of the nebulae, unveiling the secrets of distant galaxies. Our morning phone check can become a small realm of the digital, often overshadowing the intangible but far richer domain of our own thoughts, dreams, and intentions for the day. Let us be like Hubble, stepping beyond the known territory of immediate distractions to explore the vastness that lies just beyond. His perseverance is another crucial lesson. It took years of observation, calculation, and critical thinking before the full significance of his data was understood. Similarly, do not be discouraged if you do not notice a dramatic change after a few days of reclaiming 3 minutes from your smartphone. The benefits might accumulate slowly, in intangible yet meaningful ways. Perhaps you will start to notice that your mind feels clearer, that you have an increased capacity for patience, or that you are more excited to learn something new each day. You may also notice that when you do finally pick up your phone, you're more deliberate about the information you seek. The practice might foster a sense of control and intention rather than passive consumption. After all, Hubble did not just passively look at the stars. He studied them with a directed mind, a scientific method. He recognized patterns in the data, formed hypotheses, tested them, and refined his conclusions. We can adapt a similar approach with technology, be intentional about how we use it, and reflect on how it shapes our thoughts and emotions. At this point, you might be wondering if Hubble himself practiced any specific morning ritual that we could replicate. While we do not have concrete records of him resisting the lure of smartphone, impossible in his era, we can extrapolate from his overall demeanor and the demands of his work. He needed clarity of mind to observe and interpret subtle cosmic phenomena. He needed physical stamina to endure cold nights at the observatory, peering through the telescope or swapping out heavy photographic plates. Above all, he needed an unshakable commitment to wonder. In that sense, the essence of Hubble's approach can be distilled into a daily intention to remain open, curious, and patient. It might have been a mental preparation each night before he climbed the stairs to the dome of the telescope, or a quiet moment at dawn when he finished his observations and returned home. For us, it can be 3 minutes upon waking, reclaiming a bit of mental space before digital inputs crowd in. So, where does the twist come in? Recall the expansion of the universe, Hubble's greatest legacy. From a small shift in the interpretation of cosmic light emerged the staggering reality of cosmic expansion. Similarly, from a 3-minute shift in your morning might come an entire expansion of your day, your mindset, or even your life's trajectory. Small changes can have big consequences, especially when they alter fundamental patterns of thought and behavior. Before we unveil that final twist, think back to Hubble's unwavering focus on detail. A single Cepheid variable star in the Andromeda Galaxy was enough for him to measure distance, to prove that Andromeda lay far beyond the Milky Way. That tiny flicker of light changed astronomy forever. In our lives, that tiny flicker could be the choice to pause. Are there other small habits in your life that could expand into something far greater if you gave them consistent attention? Let us know in the comments, because sometimes it is the small daily tweaks that lead to transformative shifts over time. Now, to the promised twist. Often, we tend to think of morning phone checks as inconsequential or even comforting. Yet we rarely stop to consider that the reflexive act of grabbing a phone is the first piece of information we feed our brains each day. That first piece of information sets the tone, deciding whether we remain in reactive mode, responding to stimuli from the outside, or shift into a proactive mode, directing our own thoughts. Hubble's revelations about the universe forced humanity to see itself differently. We were no longer the center of everything. Likewise, by abstaining from 3 minutes of phone use, we momentarily step out of the digital center of our personal universe. We step into a broader realm of possibility, a cosmic vantage point where we can consider what truly matters before the avalanche of notifications hits. From that vantage point, we might begin to notice that the so-called urgency of digital alerts pales in comparison to the cosmic scale. We can choose when and how to engage. We can remind ourselves that the day can be shaped by intention rather than by reaction. The beauty of this practice is that it is unbelievably simple. You do not need to read a lengthy self-help manual or attend retreat. You only need to delay the digital rush by 3 minutes, letting the mind settle into a moment of stillness or reflection. The final insight here is that while Hubble expanded our understanding of the external universe, he also reminds us of the importance of expanding our internal universe. Both expansions hinge on adopting a perspective of wonder and discipline. By merging Hubble's spirit of exploration with our modern understanding of how technology affects our minds, we can glean a powerful lesson for everyday life. So, as we conclude this story, consider the next morning you wake up. Will you let those 3 minutes slip by, or will you harness them as a mini laboratory of self-discovery, reminiscent of how Hubble turned the night sky into his laboratory of cosmic truths? The choice is yours. The cosmic dance continues, and we can either join it consciously or remain locked in small screens. Hubble's cosmic revelations echo across time to remind us that we are each an explorer, that our vantage points can shift dramatically, and that vast insights can arise from small, consistent acts of focus. In closing, here is one final question for you. After learning about Hubble's transformative approach to observation and discovery, what single insight or practice do you believe you can apply to your daily routine beyond simply the 3-minute phone break to cultivate a deeper sense of wonder and presence?